I have a friend with
Back,
benefits.
5% cash back awards on gas, groceries,
you
and
tried to do
internet.
some
Credit One
old
Bank
shit,
for
bro.
what's ahead.
This
I was
one
trying to
app
really
just replaced
grind.
the 4 most used apps on my
They
phone.
told mine
Check
try
this
to
out.
reach my
Opera blocks
limit,
trackers
made me do
and
a
ads
whole video.
right out of the
I'm
box.
damn.
A lot of what happened with
That shit
specifically
not it,
Connor
folks.
is really
That
odd,
shit
but the
trash.
fact of the matter is he was very likely using the sauce
was
for
on
about
roids.
2 years. Absolutely no shot, bro. You can't take steroids to recover your leg and then just bounce back in to the competing body. Not gonna happen.
That's
for
what I'm
obvious
saying,
reasons.
though. That's what's really
Disclaimer, this video
bad.
is educational and informative in nature. Do not contact anyone sharing this video. Also, this video is discussing steroids.
Do not use steroids.
This is entirely for educational and entertainment purposes only.
This is probably one of the most lackluster fights I have ever seen, and it was so hyped up, so immensely hyped up to just fumble on its own face in like 30 seconds. Drake even felt so confident as to put $1 million of his sponsor's money, of course probably not his, on the line, and lost it all. But he wasn't the only one. The majority of people that watched this fight bet on him, on Connor, winning with several different gambling platforms. And this actually is going to tie into what we have to talk about closer to the end of this video, because there's some scheming being done. And a lot of what happened with specifically Connor is really odd, of which we'll kind of get into later, especially about his performance-enhancing steroid usage. But first thing here is important to understand. Connor was seen just before the fight already struggling, but he also claims that his knee blew within the first kick. But you can see him literally just before getting on stage, fumbling already. And there's also a video of him 4 days before the fight walking into what looks like to be a hospital. And I would imagine that while going to the hospital is not a bad thing, doing it 4 days before your fight, while you coincidentally also blew out your knee, those two things aren't just happenstance. They're probably pretty directly correlated. So take a deep dive with me here. Sit down, enjoy a meal, gather around, folks. We're going to talk about some lore that I think is super important. I haven't actually seen anybody
Folks
talk
ass
about
been
relating
on
to
roids,
this
folks.
exact manner, relating to this exact matter. So if we go back 5 years, which, holy I'm getting old, man. Connor snapped his leg in a fight. It was a brutal situation, and usually that injury is career-ending. Like, you're done at that point. However, Connor took things into his own hands and immediately hired an extremely renowned doctor in the space. This is where it gets really important to pay attention to names, just this one specifically. Dr. Neil Elatrache, I believe. Look, guys, you know I suck at pronouncing names, so that's the best I got. We're gonna call him Dr. Neil. He's the surgeon for the LA Dodgers, the LA Rams, and basically anyone with a name in athletics goes to him for treatments with significant injuries just like Connor's. Directly after his surgery, after Connor's, things changed quickly. If you remember, this was around the time that a lot of people started coming out with videos talking about whether Connor was natty or not at this point. Because, theoretically speaking, you would think that after a massive injury and a massive surgery, you probably wouldn't get super bulked up, right? You probably wouldn't just start putting on 20 to 30 pounds of muscle spontaneously, as if it was like serendipitously happening to you after you've just went through one of the most major reconstructive surgeries that's possible for an athlete like yourself. You can compare his lean and relatively lightweight form to the current, at this point in time, round face, bigger physique, overall beast of a transformation. He started looking drastically bigger, almost bodybuilder-like, especially in the face. And this doesn't look like what you'd expect somebody going through basic physical therapy to look like. The dude broke his leg and came out the doors looking like a guy blasting gear. That's it. That's quite frankly what looks like is happening here. Now around this time, like I said, Derek More Plates, More Dates did make a video. Motherfucking unk status at this point, bro. Holy shit. And in his video, he began to describe what he believed is happening with the sudden jump in weight and how Connor is looking now, or was looking. And his thesis was that basically he was taking gear, steroids. He was on the sauce. It's the only reason that he would have such a big moon face and his physique would be drastically improved. And the speculation at the time turned out to be actually true. Just last month, the New York Times dropped an article explaining how Connor was taking several performance-enhancing compounds, banned substances, while rehabbing, and I say, quote, rehabbing here, because I don't think you need all this for rehabbing. I'll be completely honest. New York Times not only got the information from people with direct knowledge of his protocols, but series of lab tests that were done in 2021, and they continued to dig. Well, it turns out that Dr. Neil, wrote a letter supporting Connor's application for what is called a TUE, a therapeutic use exemption, which is official permission given and granted by the main competing body, in this case the UFC, to take these drugs for healing purposes, or in some cases, medical reasons. A good example of this is like actual clinical asthma. You could take a bronchodilator for that. While it is a performance-enhancing compound, the person needs it to really stay alive. Now, Connor's was a bit different. It was clear that his was surrounding steroids, hormonal agents that were not testosterone derivatives, and likely other compounds alongside of that. I would imagine probably growth hormone and other various peptides, all of which are considered and classified as performance-enhancing drugs by WADA. Well, USADA looked at this therapeutic use exemption and immediately denied it. They said, absolutely no shot, bro. You can't take steroids to recover your leg and then just bounce back in to the competing body. Not going to happen for obvious reasons. And at that point in time, no one had ever been approved for use of compounds like this for therapeutic reasons. And then, funny enough, and I'm paraphrasing a lot of this here, but Connor then steps out of the testing pool entirely for an extremely long time. He came back in 2023, October 2023, but he also then immediately got pulled out again because he failed to present for any testing. And this all happening is actually what led to the UFC splitting ways with USADA, because USADA didn't want Connor coming back in October without waiting their mandatory full 6-month period for testing, which makes sense. Essentially, the regulatory body goes, if you jump back into the pool, you need to wait 6 months and undergo testing during that 6-month time period to ensure that you haven't been using substances. What the UFC wanted, because Connor's their big money maker, was for Connor to just get straight back into fighting with no 6-month waiting period, which would have obviously benefited Connor, especially if he was using performance-enhancing compounds prior to entering the testing pool again. However, once he gets back in, he catches a ban for 18 months in the UFC because he missed 3 tests. And during that entire time, he never reported his whereabouts. Now, to give you some idea here of what I'm talking about, the program that they use, or specifically USADA uses, is randomized testing. So you have to report your whereabouts whenever you go somewhere because you could be tested at literally any point in time. It's by design, and that's how it should be to be sure somebody isn't using substances when they know that they won't be tested. However, Connor, suspiciously so, didn't do this and got an 18-month ban, which when you piece this all together, it doesn't become hard to think to yourself, yeah, he was probably using some sauce, right? Like he got declined therapeutic use for steroidal compounds, then dropped out of the testing pool, then failed to report his location and got banned for another 18 months. All of that time could have been used on something. And this...
He one of them motherfuckers, he be just getting intoxicated, that bitch, like a motherfucking rottweiler. Just barking at motherfuckers.
just ended. His ban just ended in March of 2026, just before this fight. So why do I bring all this up? How is it relevant to Connor's knee blowing out in this fight? Well, sometimes using a tool may be a good idea. It might seem like a really good idea, but it may actually not be the right tool for the right job. Let me explain, because it's a bit confusing. So if you take steroids, it's well known that muscle development and strength adaptation greatly outpaces tendon adaptation due to tendons being poorly vascularized and collagen turnover being relatively slower in these areas. Now keep this in mind, there's a lot to unpack here, but mechanistically speaking, steroids not only do that, they do disrupt collagen cross-linking, meaning generally weaker tendon architecture. Then you have matrix metalloproteinase downregulation. It's a mouth you don't need to remember it. Okay? It's just it impairs remodeling of tendons and ligaments further. And then one thing that's really important to understand, because a lot of people harp on how, steroidal compounds, especially synthetic variants of testosterone, 19-nortestosterone or dihydrotestosterone, are going to enhance tendon and ligament. They improve collagen synthesis globally, so you just get a flat line benefit, no downside. But that's just not true. Steroids in humans have been shown to reduce tendon elasticity significantly. Now keep that in mind, because this is an extrapolation of rat data to some degree, but there's also human data here. And it is sparse, and we do lack a lot of anabolic research, which is another reason why I actually think a lot of these things should just be officially deregulated, because it would open up the doors for really progressive research on what these compounds actually do, because there is really little research, to be honest. And in the reality of today's world, like, they're in this pseudo gray area where you are using them illegally, like they're not legal to be used in America, but people are still using them and really facing no repercussions. And then in all the surrounding countries, it's completely legal to use these things and even to purchase them for personal use. So it just doesn't make sense. It limits research and development and all these other things. But studies with nandrolone and exercise in animal models, this is one animal model study, but I thought it was really interesting, did show that there was collagen fibril dysplasia or disassociated fibrils, and that is a big problem when you're trying to think about integrity of your joints. And it was even particularly worsened by exercise in concurrent use with the AAS. What they also confirmed in this testing was that the rats who used AAS had suffered from stiffer tendons that often failed. So even if maximal force was increased and their capacity to train was increased, their ability to be flexible and maneuverable greatly decreased. Ability to be flexible and maneuverable greatly decreased.
I wanted to take a moment out of today's video and talk about one of our sponsors, me. I talk about performance and safety a lot on this channel, obviously. And if your hormones are in the shitter or your health is deteriorated, there is no concept you're aware of that is related to performance. That's why I made our clinic On Wellness. This is a hormone clinic that I own and run. And I built it because I was tired of seeing, well, all of the things that we talk about on this channel. Steroid abuse, people ordering random things from China. We covered a video where we talked about the contamination of oils ordered from China, or teenagers running protocols that they just have no idea what they're doing to themselves. At On Wellness, we focus on optimizing hormones and peptides to get you the best possible results. These are US made products prescribed to you by medical professionals. We order you labs, we walk through the results with you one-on-one, and develop protocols that are shipped directly to your door. There's no illegal nonsense, there's no one-size-fits-all TRT protocol, it's no BS. And we also work with men and women who have a past of abusing steroids. If you've blasted and ruined your own natural production or just your health systemically, we aim to fix the problem. I'm personally obsessed about health markers and being safe clinically. I mean, I pull my labs religiously, even though I'm not on anything anymore, because I think it really does matter. So the labs that we're getting and the health analysis that we do is beyond what any clinic out there is doing right now. If you're looking for a non-judgmental, real service that's also affordable, On Wellness may be a good fit for you. You can hit the link down below to work with us at On Wellness. You'll get real labs, real clinician insight, a real...
I promise you, the face I made when I seen that bald ass nigga lifting that shit, bro, with that two-piece on, I'm like, what the fuck?
Custom-made protocol for you and medication shipped directly to your door. Now back to today's video.
Now, all this is really important because people conventionally think that, again, steroids are going to improve collagen synthesis and the quality of one's ability, but it's not a systemic effect that benefits all things. You know, it's like in RuneScape, I can't expect to take, let's just generalize this as much as possible. I can't expect to take a specific potion that's going to uniquely benefit me systemically. There may be one for a specific skill and the acquisition of improving that skill, but it won't essentially downstream affect all my other skills and improve them globally as well. There's even case reports showing this happening often. For instance, there was one done in a weightlifter who was using AAS and he had simultaneously ruptured his quadriceps tendon and his unilateral ACL. And that happening is extremely rare, and the highlight of that study was they were theorizing this was due to the androgens basically causing a lack of elasticity. So understanding this a little bit more now, I think it's important to extrapolate all of that information to Connor and what he was likely doing on his time off. Someone who at this point has articles coming out about him using the sauce and supposedly people even leaking his prescriptions. We haven't seen that publicly, so it could be hearsay, but the fact of the matter is he was very likely using the sauce for about 2 years. Then suddenly jumps back into the testing pool and almost immediately is featured into a huge fight that the world was betting on. And then the first thing that happens once he steps on stage is, he blows his knee, throwing a really exotic kick, trying to, I imagine, create flair, and instantly it backfired. I think it's fair to assume that all of this is connected back to the anabolic androgenic steroid usage. A lack of competence from his medical staff, thinking that steroids would cure his problems and make him better, when directly they could have been the thing that actually impeded his function and his main purpose, being highly flexible, highly mobile, and lightweight. While it may have actually helped heal and remodel bones, the long-term outcome is that it impaired his ability to be a fighter that is dexterous. But at the end of the day, we're all the clowns here, because very likely Conor walked away with approximately $10 million or more. Some places saying $30 million for this fight, which in 30 seconds, he made that much money. I am the idiot. Me. There's a guy named Josh on air that posted about this whole situation, and he says that he had insider information. Whether that's true or not, I'm not so sure. Everywhere that this was posted, it has been removed. Like Reddit, for instance, the moderators from the UFC pages immediately took it down. So that even might lend itself some credit to this statement, but essentially what he says, my UFC credential has already been revoked, so I've got nothing to lose. Here's the truth. Conor and the team informed Dana earlier in the week that he had a knee injury. Dana told them the show must go on. No refunds. Because of the financial implications, McGregor was forced to try. People inside became aware that McGregor was compromised, and that's why the betting line moved significantly prior to the walkouts. But since in excess of 80% of the bets and money legally wagered were on McGregor, this allowed the UFC's sportbook partners to win tens of millions in profit from unsuspecting and uninformed customers. So essentially, they pulled the rug on people. They knew McGregor had an injury, and so what happened just before the fight was everyone moved their bets over to win money without having any other information being spread out about Conor's knee injury. It's pretty fucking pathetic, you know. It's pathetic. It is what it is. It's disgusting. Everything's fake. Nothing's real anymore. Nothing's real. The internet owns us. AI runs everything. We're all cooked. So anyways, that was my video. I hope you enjoyed it and hopefully had a great meal. We'll see you in the next one.
Man, bro is spitting, man. Go show love this channel, Coach Culture. Everything I said, everything he said, I feel like it's the truth, man. Kinda is on the roads, man. Love y'all. Be back in a couple seconds, not a couple minutes. See y'all soon, man.